I was like a new person after. I mean, I've never felt like a 3-year-old more in my adult life than that. That was a very rare occurrence, but that was kind of an interesting story that ended up being a good story to tell now. But yeah, Dan, what was your take on this from the passenger seat?
Like, is she underselling this, or is she pretty spot on?
No, she's spot on. I was staring down a Category 3 hurricane, and all I had was a handful of cheese and some stale bread.
And the tunnel's closed.
Yeah, it was. And I will say, Dan, I can't think of anything that like tops that story in terms of even you throwing up on a cruise from rocking during a massage.
Yeah, there was that was a full range of emotions that evening.
Welcome to the Where Have You Been podcast. I'm your host, Bill Ream, and each week on the pod, I have conversations with incredible guests from all walks of life. Expect to hear funny, crazy, emotional, life-changing, and even sometimes life-threatening stories and experiences that will entertain and inspire you. As always, I appreciate your likes, subscriptions, ratings, and reviews wherever you are listening. It doesn't sound like much, but it truly helps the pod get to the ears of more people who may enjoy it. And check out the website, whybpodcast.com, for links to the socials where you can find pictures from the guests and their stories, and also buy merch if you're so inclined. Now let's get to this week's episode. Thank you for being here.
Welcome back into another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast. We're doing some firsts today. We have, for the first time in Where Have You Been history, we have a duo on the episode, and for the first time we have some professional cruisers on the episode. I'll let them tell you more about who they are and about what they have going on, but so I'll turn it over to you guys. Mikkel and Dan, who are you?
Thanks for having us, first of all.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, we are so excited to be here, and as Bill said, we are Dan and Mikkel. We are married. We are a traveling couple duo, partners in crime. And we have 2 travel websites. So one is called Sometimes Home, and it focuses on land-based travel and some of our lives at home and how we build a home that is travel ready, including things like making sure you have a secure home, like Ring cameras and such. And then we also have Sometimes Sailing, which is an offshoot of Sometimes Home. And we are not sailors per se. You don't want us captaining a ship, but we are happy to sail on a cruise. So that focuses on cruises, but in particular, it is very niche. It focuses on small ship cruising. So river cruises, yacht, barge, and expedition cruises, all typically under 1,000 passengers. Actually, most of them are 200 passengers or less. And we also have other businesses that also sustain our lives. So I am also a professional photographer and do freelance writing, and I'll let Dan say what he does.
Right. So I'm also a executive coach. I work with a lot of different people and help them through transitions and move into different opportunities throughout their career. But that I can do anywhere. So that really just frees me up, and I'm just having conversations.
That's excellent. And so what you guys are saying is your lives are never dull.
True.
Between traveling, working, painting, whatever else you have going on.
Yes. And
so you guys are based in Florida, am I right?
Yeah. So we met living in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're both from New York. Dan's from Buffalo, and I'm from Long Island originally. But we
Dan. Bill's Mafia, man.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm from Jamestown, New York, just south.
Oh,
so
excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Tropical Western New York. It's
absolutely
beautiful.
Yeah. And after we lived in Raleigh for 8 years, we decided to be digital nomads for 14 months and then looked at the real estate market, and we bought a house in Winter Park, Florida, which is just north of Orlando. So we've been in Winter Park a little over a year.
Excellent. So could you tell the listeners, please, you mentioned the websites, but tell them like where they can, the actual web addresses and where they can find you on socials?
Yeah, thanks for asking. We are sometimeshome.com, and the handle for our Sometimes Home accounts is at Sometimes Home. And then for Sometimes Sailing, it is sometimes, plural, sailing.com. And it is at Sometimes Sailing on most socials except for YouTube, if you could call it that. We also are podcasters, and we have a podcast called Small Ship Cruise Talk, which you can find anywhere you listen to podcasts or easily get the links from smallshipcruisetalk.com. Sorry. Smallshipcruisetalk.com. And on YouTube, it's at sometimes sailing.
Excellent. And I was going to mention that too. I'm glad that you mentioned that you guys are also podcasters, which your podcast is very entertaining. I like you guys going back and forth a bit. So I enjoy listening to it, and I encourage anybody who's even if you're not necessarily or didn't think you had interest in cruising or doing cruises, it's very entertaining. You'll learn a lot. So
thank you.
Yeah, highly encourage. So before I get into like the bulk of what my show is, I'd like to ask you both, like, when did travel become a thing in your lives for each of you? Was it when you were young? Did your parents take you traveling, when you were a kid, or did it kind of develop over time? How did that happen for each of you?
I love hearing Dan's perspective on this, so take it away. And then I'll fill in like my childhood, because we met when we were in our 30s. So there's a lot of life before that too.
When I was a kid, my parents and extended family, they loved road trips. So we did a lot of road trips.
Mm-hmm.
And truly, the first time I flew was by myself, and that was when I was in my early 20s. So we didn't fly anywhere. We drove everywhere. And driving from Buffalo to used to vacation in Arkansas. So take 3 days to drive across the country. Well, halfway across the country to go to Arkansas. I don't know how my parents had so much PTO time, but we drove everywhere. And that was always something we did every year. And there was a lot of road trips, and there was a lot of just going and exploring. So what was local, and there was a few that were bigger road trips. From that, I knew I wanted to see stuff and experience the world, and just not only understand what's in my backyard, but what's in somebody else's backyard. Wow, that sounded creepy. Not.
I was gonna say I kind of liked it, but yeah, I see what you're saying. Yep.
It could go both ways.
Yeah. Yes.
Creepy or funny. So then, in my early 20s, and then in my 20s and 30s and 40s, it was all about travel, and it was a lot of domestic. And well, no, it was all domestic until I met Mikkel, and she opened my eyes to international travel. I got it in my head that there's so much to explore in the United States, that why would I need to go anywhere else? But then we started talking about it, and our first trip together was to Belize. So a pretty easy entry point for travel, right? So they speak English, they take the US dollar, it's affordable, the flight wasn't that long. And then from there, it just exponentially grew, and we just started going everywhere.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. And so for me, when I was a kid, my family would travel wherever they could, whenever they could, but it was usually shorter trips because my parents had a retail store, so it was hard for them both to get away at the same time. So the biggest trip I remember early on was to Aruba with my grandparents, who took my mom's family every year growing up. And actually, for my parents' 50th anniversary next year, they would like to go to Aruba, so we'll be back. But when I was younger, I went to Israel for 4 weeks when I was 16. I always had travel as a part of my life. My mother, from when I was a baby, always said you have to have a passport. And I'm not sure if she meant it like so we had to escape really fast or so we could travel, or both. Nowadays, I would say both. You never know.
Were there things that you didn't know that was going on in the family?
There still might be things unknown. So they never came to fruition, but I always supported that you should be able to travel whenever you want and keep your passport current. So one of the things I loved about Dan when we met was that he had a passport, because a lot of people don't. And if you're listening and you don't have a passport, they're really easy to get and you shouldn't be intimidated to do it. And they really literally open the world up to you to travel, visas aside in certain countries. But the passport, was a great first date conversation. And I had been almost, all over the world, Japan and Europe and Norway before we met. But I really was looking for somebody in my life who would love to travel as much as me. And it definitely was a first date conversation. And I didn't mind that Dan hadn't been out of North America before we met. I loved that he had the desire to travel and was ready to travel and had a wish list of where he wanted to go. So that was definitely a first date conversation. And we've been traveling ever since.
So excellent. I just in my mind, I see it. Picture you sitting down to coffee and asking for his passport like immediately.
I was going to say, it's not that far off, but it was at a bar and he did have whiskey, and the passport was probably a couple months later when I needed the number to book our trip.
There you go. Right. Very nice. Awesome. Well, that's excellent. So this is the point of the show where I ask, and you guys can take this any way you'd like to, as far as you don't literally have to list every place you've been, but Dan and Mikkel, where have you been?
I love it. I really do love the name of the podcast too.
Thank you.
It's just straight to the point, but also so catchy too,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
So I'm going to start off and say my top 3, and some of these do overlap with Dan, which might be a little boring, but Japan, Norway, and Spain are definitely at the top of the list for me. And I'm going to throw in one more. Most recently, we just came back from the Pacific Northwest in the United States. So that was Washington and Oregon. We've been to so many places. Most of them, I would say at this point, we've been together, because some of them previously I'd been alone before I met Dan. But now I would say we've gone back to a lot of those places. One I'll throw in that we didn't go to together. We were together, but Dan was out of vacation days. He worked for somebody else at that point and didn't have as much vacation as we would have liked. And he was unable to come with me to Slovenia. So I went with one of my girlfriends instead. But yeah, Dan, what are your tops? And
definitely my highlights are Japan. Also, I love Spain. Feel like I spent quite a bit of time in a previous life in Spain. There's just a connection there for me. And then Cambodia was magical. It's an interesting, warm and welcoming country. I would also throw on France. I mean, I love Lyon. I love the south of France. And parts of Canada. Well, yeah, Canada. Like Prince Edward Island is just so cute and adorable. The other part of that is, if we're going north, Alaska. There's just something magical about Alaska. I'm glad I didn't go to Alaska in my early 20s, because I may have stayed a little while, which I think when you go there, you see a lot of males that have done that, where they're like, hey, this is good. I like this. I'm just going to stay here.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Just because of the beauty? Like, what is it about it that...
I think it, like, my 22-year-old Dan would have been like, yeah, this is good. I have my own space. It's still rugged and it still feels uncharted. I think that's just a perception. Obviously, there's Google Maps, but what I'm saying is that there's a calling there, and I think as a young man, I would have really leaned into that.
A calling to the last frontier.
Yeah, something like that.
Also, just to clarify, would you want to have been there, you think, year round, or the summer jobs that a lot of people do there with all the tourism and stuff that takes off during the summer months?
As I sit here in my nice warm house in Florida, I would just say, I'm going to stay year round. But the reality, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, my 22-year-old self was used to Buffalo winters, so I guess Sure, I'll try it.
That's true. Also, when you said Canada, I thought, where's he going with this? Like, is he saying Toronto because he's from Buffalo and it's just a stone's throw to the other side? Or is he going, Vancouver, where we've been? But you went PEI, which I like.
Yeah, Montreal's beautiful too. I did
Montreal is
enjoy
beautiful.
Montreal. Yeah.
So the three of us are sitting down in a bar. You already know that I have a passport, and
This is fun. I like this.
And we just start swapping stories, just super great experiences that we've had. What's like one of the first ones that pops into your guys' mind? Not to put you on the spot, but one of your favorite stories to tell of anywhere that you've been.
I love this. Can we all take a turn? Can you tell us yours too?
Maybe.
Okay. The first one that popped into my head was actually Japan. And I don't know if it's because it came up recently, but there's two bar situations because we're at a bar. So there's two bar situations when we were in Japan. Being there for 6 weeks was amazing because we had the luxury of just like, we would work during the day and then maybe see an attraction or visit somewhere within a couple of hours for part of the day because we were working remotely, and there's a 13-hour time difference. And then we would go out for dinner, let's say. So we could just go to a bar and like that could be, one of two activities for the day or only one activity. But Dan got really into drinking highballs there, which is basically whiskey and soda or seltzer. And we went to two bars, and one of the bars was a Jameson bar. So much Jameson. And you have to picture a very small bar because it's usually like enough seats for 6 to 12 people. 12 would actually be a lot. And it was like this street, and it was like low ceilings. It felt like a little cubby. We went into this bar. It was Jameson. It was this Japanese man who I think he said was in his 60s, but looked like he was in his 40s. He looked amazing. And the bartenders, when they pour you a drink, at least this was our experience in most places, casual bars, they pour themselves one too. So it was like, it was like one for you, and one for me. And we were like, are we paying for this drink? But then like, we didn't really care. We were just like, this is great. We had like amazing conversations with him about his life and his son. So that's one of them. And then the other one is very similar, but it was a female bartender and she was the bar owner. So that was really cool too. So it was Dan, me, a guy that looked like a regular, and two women that looked like they were like retired and just going out for a little martini after work. And I just like pointed to their drink and I basically said, I'll have what they're having. But nobody really spoke English that well there. So it was really cool. But it was like, they could say enough like, why are you here? How long are you here? And that was pretty much it. And it was just great. So those are my two, but I might have taken one of Dan's because I know that's a great vivid memory for us.
Yeah, that was so much fun. Speaking with a gentleman at the first bar, like him, as he was drinking, he was smoking. And when Mikkel says bar, truly for the rest of us, think hallway. Because if somebody wanted to leave, everybody had to stand up so they could get through. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even know if, I got to be honest, I'm such a picture taker. I don't even think we took a photo there, which almost makes it even better. Yeah. I wish we did. And we would, now with the internet, we would probably be able to find it again. But it's it adds to the mystery and kind of the ethereal experience of it all.
Yeah, that was fun. For me, if we were telling stories, I would have to go back to Madrid and our time in Madrid. We found pretty much immediately, like we checked into our Airbnb. We were there for 30 days and we said, we need to find a local restaurant or a local bar. And luckily, probably, I don't know, eight doors down, there was a restaurant bar.
Casa de Alberta.
Yes.
Alberto.
Right. Correct. And you go in, and that's the thing about Europe. It's like you look at the bottles behind the bar and you realize probably some of those bottles are older than my country. Like this bar has been here for decades or probably centuries.
Over a century. Yeah. Definitely over a century, that bar.
So we quickly, we stuck out a little bit, and we quickly were able to have conversations with the bartenders and the waiter, and built this like relationship that was very fun. Like limited English, limited Spanish, but we were able to communicate in, the universal language of cerveza came through, and just the interaction between the bar staff and the energy and the little tiny television up in the corner that we watched soccer, and it was just a vibe that was so welcoming, so much fun, and you're able to really understand what it is to be Spanish and just have some tapas and a drink and then go back and maybe do some work or, retire for the evening.
I think something that also made that really special, besides the fact that it really was right by our Airbnb and it truly was over a century old. In Spain, there are plaques in front of certain restaurants and bars that prove they have to apply for them, from what I understand, but they prove that the establishment is over 100 years old. Is that because it's so old, it's very touristy in a regard too, but they also have so many regulars because it's been in the neighborhood for that long. So I this is a hot tip for anybody that's traveling, and if you're going to be there even for a week and you plan on going to the same place, introduce yourself to the bartenders and the wait staff. Tell them why you're there, because they're always curious. Like we're in Madrid for a month. We use Google Translate. It was actually fascinating that no matter where we go, we find that people speak English, really, for the most part, overall. But at this restaurant, for whatever reason, their English wasn't that fantastic. So, but it was good because we were practicing our Spanish. But make sure that you introduce yourselves, because then, like, we look like, white Americans and tourists. But every time we went in, we made sure we said hi to them and we hung out. And it really added to the magic of being there.
That's what I was going to ask you too, is did that become a place that you frequented? You said you were there for 30 days. So did you go there, maybe not often, but enough?
Probably more than we should have, but yes.
But it's cool when you, like you said, you made a sort of a bond and sort of a relationship with the bartender and the waiters or waitresses or whatever. That's part that I love about travel is establishing connection with other people who I may never see again, but it's just it expands my world, and and I have had some really cool conversations with people in other countries and other places that I'll never see again. But I just think that's really part of what travel is for me, is that. So like when I go places, I do tend to, purposely reach out to have conversations with other people, even if they're other travelers,
Right.
Yeah.
I think Bill, you kind of just hit on something there too, is it truly is, it's the interacting with the place or the location that you're at, interacting with the people, but also interacting with the other travelers that are there experiencing it. And we find that a lot when we're cruising, is everybody's kind of like a captive audience and we're all there for the same purpose. Mm-hmm. And so it's pretty easy to strike up that conversation and build those friendships along with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would be your answer, if you don't mind me asking?
Probably, and I've told this on an episode a while back, but one of my favorite ones to tell is when I was in Rome. So it's like a two-parter, because when I was in Rome, it was August of 2016, and we didn't know when we were going that was when all the families take their holiday.
Yeah.
My first impression of food in Italy was awful. Like, it was just not good. And we took a day trip up to Naples, and when we were there, we got there like right around what bad timing for everything. We got there right around the time that all of the people were taking their their afternoon siesta breaks, whatever you want to call them. And so all the pizza places were like just ready to close. So I was like, okay, come on. So we flagged down a cab driver and somehow conveyed to him, he spoke no English. We conveyed to him that we wanted him to take us to his favorite pizza place that was still open. And so he drove us across town, and somehow he got us to understand to try fried pizza.
Yes.
And so we got to this restaurant, we sat down, and we ordered not fried pizza. We got some kind of quad. It had like 4 different variations in one pizza, which it was excellent. Like, I'm not taking anything away from it. But since then, I had seen on different TV shows, like food shows or whatever, heard about this fried pizza over and over. And it's like, the only place in the United States you can go get it is like New York City. And it's like, I'm not just making a trip to New York City for pizza. So although I would, last year we took a trip to, my daughter graduated from school. She went to college in Prague. And so as a graduation gift, we took her to Italy. This time we went to Bologna and Milan and Venice. And in Venice, there is a guy there that's from Naples that opened his own pizza place. And he has fried pizza on the menu. So 8 years later, I went, and it was a day that my other daughter wasn't feeling well. So my wife was with her. And so it was just kind of a do your own thing day. And so I went back and had some fried pizza, and it was just the most beautiful experience. And you sound like you've had fried pizza.
We have in Naples.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it is unbelievable, at least in my humble opinion.
I love that. And the anticipation probably made it even more delicious.
Right.
Well, and it could have been a huge letdown, but it absolutely was not. It was so good, like so good.
What was on it?
It was just cheese and basil and the sauce, and that was it.
Classic. I think that's a really good pizza, like a margarita, to judge all pizzas by.
Yeah.
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 That's
The
awesome.
flavors were just, I mean, everything's so fresh. And that, like the crunchy, crispy dough with the fluffy, it's just so good. So
That's
anyway.
awesome. I love that. When we were, to be fair, when we were in Naples, we were there, it was 6 of us.
Mhm.
So we all decided, there was 3 couples. We decided that we'd all order a pizza and we'd all share. So when we ordered the pizzas, the guy was like, you each want a pizza. And I mean, they're like personal sized pizzas,
Yeah,
but he
yeah.
was like shocked. And we were like, yeah, we're only in Naples for one day. We're going to try all the pizzas. He was like, all right.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's one thing I've tried to explain to people too. Is I think I talked about it on an episode. Like, when you order pizza in the United States, you order pizza to share, because even a small pizza sometimes is too much for one person. But when you order pizza, like when we were in Venice, it's a meal for one person. It's
Right.
It's thinner, it's lighter, it's
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
perfect size. It's just wonderful.
Now I want
I could
pizza.
go on and on about Italy. It's one of my favorite places.
We could talk to you forever about Italy. You got to cruise in Italy, Mediterranean, small ship.
It's a good idea. We may have to talk.
Yeah, for sure.
So where do you guys want to take it? I'm going to let you guys kind of steer the ship, so to speak, pun intended. Tell me where some of your favorite stories are, some of your favorite experiences.
Yeah.
Whether that's cruising or not cruising, it's up to you.
To play off of something before, places that I had been that I wanted to go back with Dan, I saw the Northern Lights in Tromsø, which is one of the northernmost cities in Norway that people visit. There's a university there. For a city in the Arctic Circle that's so far north, it actually is such a fabulous place to visit, and I really loved it. I don't like cold weather, but if I know it's for a finite amount of time and it's going to see the beauty of an area and it's almost guaranteed, I'll go. Like in New York, growing up, it was like pretty sometimes when it snowed, but then in New York City, it gets like really gross and like gray slush. That's not pretty. I'm always like, if it's going to snow, you want it to really snow so it blankets everything and it's gorgeous. Well, Tromsø, it pretty much does that. And I went and saw the Northern Lights, and it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Can you describe it as best you
Sure.
can? Because I know it's difficult to put into words, but
Yeah. So I'm not going to assume everybody knows what they are, actually, to your point, because a lot of people don't. So there's the Northern Lights. They're called Aurora Borealis in Latin. And it's a phenomenon that the sun's rays are reflected in the sky. I'm not a scientist. I'm glad you're all sitting down. So hopefully that's an abbreviation of what it is. But you can really only kind of see them in certain areas because of, again, not a scientist, the way that the sun is entering the Earth's atmosphere and the reflections and all that stuff. it has to be dark. And when people are quote unquote chasing the Northern Lights, we've been told by our guides during several Northern Lights tours that you're really chasing good weather. So it can't be cloudy. A beautiful night sky helps. And it goes off a KP. I want to say KPIs, but that's a business term. It goes off of the KP index, which I think is from 1 to 9, maybe. And 1 is not great, and a 9 is really amazing. And I'm pretty sure a 9 is fairly rare. So there's apps and such that you can look at your chances of seeing the Northern Lights. And I think most people, if they're going to a place like this, they will download the app, and then once they get home, obviously not use it again, because most people don't live in a place that you could see the Northern Lights, even though you can see them in Alaska, Michigan. Once I saw somebody saw them in North Carolina, because we used to live there, and we saw people posting. So it's not impossible, but it's just rarer the further south you go, until you reach the southern hemisphere. And there are Southern Lights, actually. We've never seen the Southern Lights, but we've seen the Northern Lights. So to describe what they look like, picture a dark sky, and the best way I describe it is somebody writing in the sky with glow sticks. It almost looks like the sky is having like a really beautiful, peaceful rave. And they move.
That's great.
Yeah, like you see all these static photos of them, and I've seen some time-lapse photos. Actually, shout out to my friend Stephanie Vermillion. She has a National Geographic book that she wrote and published on it's like 100 nighttime. It's on my shelf. I should read it. 100 Nights of a Lifetime. And she is the best how do you say it? Astronomy photographer, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and she does these amazing stop motions of the Northern Lights. So, but a lot of people, if they go see them, they share them on social media, and it's static. It's, a long exposure photo, and it's static, but they move. They're constantly moving, and it just looks like somebody writing with the glow stick. Or if you've ever broken a glow stick or a glow necklace.
What I was going to say. Like the liquid that's in there when it comes out. Yeah.
Or like if you're a child of the 80s, like I am, or Dan's child of the 70s, like, and you opened a highlighter in like an alcohol bottle in college to like decorate your dorm, like the highlighter fluid going into the water. Are you guys with me on this, or I'm just like, I had a different college experience?
Yeah, mine was slightly different than that.
Well, it looks like that. So it's really amazing. Anyway, so Dan and I went back to Tromsø by land, totally by land. We've been to Norway a few times, and it's a great place to cruise, we hear, but we have yet to do it by cruise. It's on our bucket list. But so we were in Norway. You take a flight from Oslo to Tromsø, and we maximized our chances of seeing them by staying for 3 nights, and we booked tours for the first and second night, hoping we would see them. And if we didn't, we would book a third night. The first night we saw them, and they were fine. They weren't that great, but we did see them. And then the second night, I like, even now sitting here speechless, the man who was our tour guide said that he grew up in Tromsø and has been doing tours for decades, and this was one of the best quote unquote shows he's ever seen. It was a KP of 7, and he said it was just like outstanding. And I just remember Dan dropped like free fall backwards into the snow. There was a pile of snow, almost like you were going to do Snow Angel, and was just using it as like a bed to look up at the sky. And at first I was really upset that I didn't lay down next to him in the immediate retrospect, because I wanted to share that moment. But then if I was next to him, I wouldn't have had the vision of looking at him, looking up. And it was just like my dream come true to have Dan there, of seeing it with me, because when you meet the right person, you really want to just experience everything with them that you love. And this was one of the things that I really loved.
This is really sweet.
It's true. It's corny, but it's true. So it was just like, just being in Tromsø together, it was almost like unbelievable, because we've been together almost 10 years, and it was what, Dan, like maybe the first 3 years. Oh, maybe it was 2018. So it was the third year of our relationship in February. Actually, it was like probably a little bit like 2.75 years at that point. And like I just felt like I waited to meet the right person for a long time. We met when I was in my 30s and Dan was in his 30s too. And it just felt like, it was just that much sweeter that it had all come to this point. And being in Tromsø was magical in itself, but being there with Dan and then getting like the reward of this incredible Northern Lights show was just the icing on the cake.
Do you remember, Dan, what it felt like when you first saw them? Like the real, not the first night, but that second night?
Yeah, I definitely remember it. I'm not that spiritual of a person, but there was a moment where I go like, now I get it. Like something bigger than you is out there, and something is well beyond your understanding of it. It's just so out of your context of what you know, and then you see something like that, and you pause because it's like I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
It's
And I think, go ahead.
it's kind of like I saw a kangaroo once and I was like, wow, I've never seen anything like that. What is that thing?
But I think it's an important note that you had seen pictures of it before, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And so, for people who it's so hard to describe experiences like that sometimes, and like even you telling it now, it makes me feel like I want to see it, but there's still no way that I can feel what you felt. But
That's true.
It's kind of one of those things like just trust,
Right.
If you enjoy things like that can just take your breath away and kind of make you remember how small we are in this world. But these experiences that are sometimes once in a lifetime and memories that you'll just cherish forever. Do it. Just take the chance.
Yeah.
It can be worth it.
And it's great to have conversations like this because, like you said, we can never have somebody else's experience. It's all very singular to ourselves. But through sharing this, it's fun to see what your perspective was and Dan's or whatever. I can't imagine somebody seeing the Northern Lights, like a really good show, and not being impressed. I would think that there was something seriously wrong with them if they weren't impressed with this. And I want that. I want everybody to see the Northern Lights. Like, Bill, I want you to see them. I want everybody listening to see them. They're just like one of nature's most spectacular things that you can see on Earth.
This is the point in the episode where Oprah pops in and says, you get to see the Northern Lights. You get to see the Northern Lights.
We're going to Tromsø.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. If you know Oprah, give her a call for me.
Yes, let's all conspire to do such a thing and get Oprah.
Yeah.
I'll text her, see if she's busy.
Thank you.
So
Thank
nice
you very
of
much.
you.
So is there any other place in the world that you've been that's given you some sort of a feeling like that? Not necessarily like a natural phenomenon like that, but just seeing a place that is just like, whether you knew it existed before you went there or not, but once you saw it was just like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's Cambodia. We did a Mekong River cruise that started in Siem Reap and then went to Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. I was most excited about visiting Vietnam on the trip, and I kind of thought going into it like Cambodia was just a vehicle to get to Vietnam. And pretty quickly I realized that Cambodia it's very much its own thing and very much so warm and welcoming. It's for when you go to Asia, it can be pretty jarring because it's so different. It's loud, it's hot, the food is different, the smells are different, and I was really excited and then really at ease there. And I think that was the biggest thing that I take away from my time. And my time there was just how comfortable it felt. And it's definitely a country that's gone through a lot very recently. But just the attitude and the spirit of the people that are there it's all about rebuilding. It's all about moving forward. And that really made an impression on me.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And all of the the Angkor Wat complex because it's actually a lot of temples. It's not just the famous temple that everybody kind of has seen in photos. It's also the Lara Croft Tomb Raider.
Yes.
Is that the right reference?
Yeah,
It's also
yeah,
one of those temples too.
They filmed Tomb Raider there.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's really cool. For me, the beauty of Japan, it's very clear we're obsessed with Japan.
I would be too. It's on my list to get to.
Yeah, it's not just the location and the island being so beautiful. Japan's an island, or actually it's a series of islands for anyone who doesn't know, in Asia. It's the history, it's the culture, it's the food, and it's the warmth and kindness of the people is just jaw-dropping. It's so hard to describe, but it's just like a kindness and a universe that I've never known anywhere else except in Japan. It's beautiful, it's clean, they respect their elders, they perfect their crafts. And I'm sure, living there, it's different. We've kind of thrown ourselves into some expat communities when we travel just to see, because you get curious. Like the first week we were in Madrid, the first of 4 weeks, we were like, well, we're moving here, clearly. And then throughout the 4 weeks, we were lucky enough to interact with a lot of expats for an extended period of time. And then they were like, well, the grass is always greener. It's hard to get your cable set up here. It's hard to get the internet. Here's the social dynamics of this. And so I'm sure if you live in Japan, it's a little different. And I've heard things here or there, but I'm going to focus on the positive. Yeah. And being there is just amazing. My dream was to be there for 90 days. We had to come back for a family event, but you can stay in Japan. You currently can stay in Japan as an American for up to 90 days without a visa, just like you can in the Schengen agreement countries in Europe. And that was our plan. But I literally cried leaving Japan. I was so sad to leave there. And it was my third time there. So, it was just like the longer I'm there, the happier I was and the more attached to it I got.
I think for me, not that anyone asked, for me,
please. I love hearing your stories.
It's probably like of the places that I've like in my mind, places that I've seen photos of or whatever. And I just think, can it really be that pretty? It was Santorini, and it was just as perfect, if not more. Again, like it's one of those places you just can't truly describe it. Like when you're in Ia at the tip of Santorini, you're walking down these narrow paths and realizing that, and I've said this before, like this wasn't created for me to experience as a tourist. This is real. Like people live here, they work here, they have their shops, they, not as many as are there when it's, peak season, but people do live there. And these are real homes and real businesses. And it's not like a Disneyland,
Right.
But the whitewashed buildings, the blue roofs, every turn, every twist is a picture opportunity, photo opportunity. And it's just a magical place that I would like to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
I think with something like that, especially that the Romans founded a lot of these civilizations, I would say, not to say there weren't people there before that, but the Romans literally might have built the paths that you were walking on, is that, you look at the postcards of Santorini with the white buildings and you're like, oh, they made that for Instagram. And it's like, no, they didn't. It was like to keep the homes cool. It actually had a purpose.
Right.
So I know what you're saying. Like, it's like you walk those streets and you're like, no, people live here.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about cruising, because, maybe not necessarily the process of, but like, what are some of your favorite memories on cruises that you've done? You've done more than a handful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Dan mentioned the Mekong River cruise, and it's just, it's obviously the continent of Asia, but Japan is night and day from Cambodia and Vietnam to me. That it was such a different river cruise. Most river cruises that people know about are in Europe, particularly on the Rhine and the Danube, and those are amazing too. And we love, love, love Europe. And we just went on a river cruise in the US, and I would say even those are really not known that much. People don't know that you can cruise the Columbia and Snake Rivers. They mostly know you can cruise the Mississippi River. I would say that's the most popular. But we went on the Tennessee River, just as another example. So the Mekong River to us was a bucket list trip because we just wanted something a little different, just for an experience and travel experience. So cruising there was just great with the food. I mean, there was a Vietnamese chef. We went with Ama Waterways on their ship Amadara, and the food was outstanding, better than most river cruises we've been on. The people were so kind. There's Vietnamese staff on board. As Dan said, we cruised from Cambodia to Vietnam, and we stayed a little bit on the front end and we stayed a little bit afterwards. And that was a cool experience, getting to know those countries a little more. I mean, barely the tip of the iceberg with these countries, but better than not going. And that sticks out as a really great memory. Another one was our trip to Hawaii with Uncruise. It was a 36 passenger ship, and it's called Safari Explorer, the ship. And that was phenomenal too. There were 15 guests on there, even though the capacity is more. The crew was amazing. It's an American flagship, so the staff is all American. And it was just kind of like fun getting to know their life stories and why CJ, the bartender from Buffalo, was on board. Dan had many a night talking to CJ as Buffalonians, which was fun. And that was we did that cruise in Hawaii. And so many people go to Hawaii, but what was so unique about our uncruise adventure was that it started in Molokai, which most people do not go to, and it ended at the Big Island. So we didn't even hit up the major, Kauai or Oahu or Maui. We dove off, we went snorkeling off the coast of Maui, but unfortunately, because of the fires a couple years ago, they don't go on land there currently. Oh, and we went to Lanai, which most people also don't go to. So it was just such a unique perspective of seeing Hawaii. I've been to those bigger islands before. Dan has not, but one day, of course, we want to go back and go to those islands together. But something that really stood out to us was being a Molokai for a few days beforehand was really cool. We were at an Airbnb that we could walk to this beach, which felt incredibly private, and the sunsets were amazing. And then at the end, we stayed on the Big Island and rented a car. So we went to Kona, and Kona coffee really is the best coffee I've ever had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's very expensive, but I understand why now.
Yeah.
And we went to Volcanoes National Park, and Kilauea is still erupting right now as we speak in July 2025. It's erupting more than when we were there, but we were so lucky that on December 24th, when we were still there and still driving around and at Volcanoes National Park, it was erupting. And I thought that being in Iceland last year on Windstar Star Pride, which is 312 passengers, that was kind of the closest we were going to get to lava, because they have something called the lava show. It's the only oven that I'm aware of in the world that can bake lava to the degree that that it's like viscose, that it flows again.
Yeah.
And it's called the lava show, but the show is really like an educational experience about the lava and how Iceland was formed. So I thought, oh, this is clearly the closest we're ever going to get to lava, like a foot in front of us. Okay, to be fair, a foot in front of us was the closest we've ever been to lava.
Which is as close as I'd want to be, probably.
Sure.
Right,
Yeah, that's
totally. A somewhat controlled environment they give everybody protective eyewear to wear. But we were in Volcanoes National Park, and I was just surprised in a really delightful way that you could smell the lava from, Dan, how far away were we? Was it like 2 miles? You could
we were quite a ways away.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely safe. Now I look at the videos and it's going over 1,000 feet in the air and they look so close. And I'm like, I can't believe how close they are. But I can't imagine they were any closer than we were. I think it's just erupting in a different area on the volcano. And they probably have the same trails. But it smells like melting plastic. And you hear the gurgling of the lava. And then you can see it. Not just see it like the orange, molten earth in the air, but you can like see this cloud above it. And like at first when we were driving when we were driving towards the park, because people mostly stay on the west end or the east end, and you have to drive to the park, and it's like about a 2-hour drive. So it's kind of a long drive. And we saw it and we were like, I wonder if that's a volcano. And then as we got closer, we confirmed it was. It was just amazing. And again, these natural occurrences from the earth are just like Mother Nature. Do not mess with her. Like she wins all the time for good or worse, or, richer or poorer, like as you saying your vows, like for better or worse. It was just amazing. Dan, what did you think looking back on that Hawaii experience with Volcanoes National Park?
It was another one of those examples where you are encountering something that you've just never seen or experienced before. So it's like seeing the kangaroo. You have to pause, and your brain needs a moment to really just figure out what's going on and process it before you can fully enjoy it. And for me, that's what that was, that experience of seeing the lava, hearing the lava. It sounded like a waterfall, and we were quite a distance away. You could hear it, smelling it, and just saying, this is something different. And it's a little scary, a little awesome. And I'm going to stand here and watch it for way too long because I can't look away.
Yeah. And we did. And that's one of those things, just like the Northern Lights. It's kind of like when you're a kid and your parent is like, let's go. And you, like, it's dragging you and you're like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
And it felt like that with the park. But the thing that actually caused us to leave was that the sun was setting, and we, don't know the roads that well there, and they're not lit at night like the highways are in the, mainland United States. And it's like this, we said to ourselves, we're going to see some of the sunset to see the lighting change with the lava, and then we're going to go, because we have to go. We have to drive 2 hours back to our Airbnb. And it was really hard to peel ourselves away from that. Just like it was so hard to leave the Northern Lights. But again, it was like over an hour drive back to Tromsø. Not that we were driving, but like you have to leave it at some point. And that's kind of like the beauty and sadness of it. You have to leave.
Come on, kids. The park is closing.
All right.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You can stay in that park. There's, we did watch it from the lodge. I don't remember what it's called. It might be called Volcanoes Lodge. I think that's very close to what it is. But, they have a very limited amount of rooms. Like any national park, they have very limited space for the hotel. And I'm sure it books up really far in advance, further than somebody would know that the volcano was going to erupt. But what was fascinating was that there's this panoramic window when you walk in to the hotel. And I'm like, what came first? The knowledge that the volcano was going to erupt and they put this window here, or it was just lucky that the window was right here and it literally has the best view of the volcano erupting.
That's awesome. That's really cool. That's another thing. I've never seen something like that, happening in nature. So very awesome. You guys ever had anything like crazy happen on a cruise when you guys are on maybe not like in my mind I'm thinking like scary, but not necessarily, but maybe just something crazy or just super funny that happened on a cruise on the ship?
I just remembered the way we got to that volcano was from you asking what are some good cruise memories. And those were on land, but it was after
okay.
a cruise.
No, that's fine. I'm looking for anything. I just love hearing stories. So.
Navigating this travel map together. Dan, can you think of something?
I can't think of anything really scary that's happened, which is good.
Knock on wood.
Right. Yeah. I have an embarrassing story, and that was I threw up during a massage once because I get seasick.
No. Were you face down, I hope?
Well, I was face down, but I jumped up pretty quickly, and
okay, good.
That poor masseuse.
Was that on a big ship?
That was Windstar going around Iceland. Yeah.
Yeah, it got pretty rough in some places. I will say river cruises, you don't get seasick because it's very smooth. But when you're on the ocean, there's, a bigger chance, obviously, for the motion of the ocean to affect you.
Yeah. There was, I mean, a little bit of food poisoning on one trip. There's, I don't think there was any, I don't think there was anything unusual or scary that's happened on a cruise, but it's part of travel, right? Like you get sick, you eat the wrong thing or drink too much of the wrong thing, and like things happen.
Yeah. What about like when we're sitting down and we're telling these stories, do you have like favorite memories where you guys go to each other like, hey Dan, do you remember when or Mikkel, do you remember when this happened to us? Like, I want to hear kind of a back and forth with you guys because I don't get this opportunity to have two people on together.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to volley.
Yeah.
Let me think of a starting point. It's funny. We have things that we like say between us. They're not like secrets. We're happy to share with everybody.
There's nobody listening anyway.
Right.
Right.
It's just us.
Yeah. That came from like our trip to Belize, like, especially now that we live in Florida and there's tropical storms or very heavy rains, it'll downpour like it did last Wednesday and we'll be like, it's a hurricane. And it came because when we went to Belize, there was a hurricane that really wiped out a lot of like the entrances to the famous ATM caves, which does not stand for automatic teller machine. It stands for something native, and it's very long and I never remember what it stands for. But yeah, so actually our tour we went cave tubing was one of the first tours back in the cave post hurricane. So like things will come up that like, we'll just be like, it's a hurricane. Dan, it was like at dinner, right? Like we were having a lovely dinner. A French man had moved to Belize, I think, to start a restaurant.
I think he was German, but yeah, he came over
German.
and
Okay. You definitely remember better.
You had asked the question like, is it always this rainy? And he's like, we had a hurricane. And it was like, and I was
You're
just
like, okay.
very matter of fact, like, listen, lady, there was a hurricane. Cut me a break. The other thing we talked about Madrid, and I talked about the banter between the bartenders and the servers, and the bartender was Jimmy, was his name, and they would just give this poor guy like such a hard time all night long, and they would yell his name when they wanted something, and it was all in good fun, and they were having but they would always just be like, Jimmy. Yummy! And so poor Jimmy's like running around the bar all night long. So we do that, back and forth. We'll just yell. It's like, yummy! When we need something.
Or he'll do like I don't know if you can hear this, but and then like they like knock. Can you hear it? The knocking?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Not great. Not the best for a podcast, but they did that in that bar too. Yeah, that's a good memory. There is a memory we have in France that, Dan, I'm trying to think. Oh, I know why. Okay. This is a good story. So being somebody who really loves Europe, and the first time I was in Europe was in 2009, and it was after a bad breakup, actually. And to get over the breakup, my aunt and my sister went to Paris Fashion Week regularly. As the mic falls, they went regularly for work, and they said, well, you can come here. I had no money, and they were like, well, you can come here and like stay in our hotel room, and like it's a nice affordable way if you can find a flight to come here. So I had been to Europe in 2009. I was in Paris and London and instantly fell in love, and ever since I just feel like, well, historically I am European. My great grandparents were from Eastern Europe, but I just always felt a draw to Europe. And I knew, of course, when we met that, we had to go to Europe. Dan had never been to Europe, and I just wanted to experience the magic of Europe with him. So I said, if you could go to Europe, like, where would you go? I know why. Okay. So he came up with Spain because he loves art, and Pablo Picasso's Guernica, the very famous painting made after the Spanish War.
It was World War II. They were ending. The Germans helped the Franco regime end uprising, and they quelled the uprising very brutally in the city of Guernica. And after reading about this, Picasso painted this painting to symbolize the bombings that happened there.
Mm-hmm. And if you're listening and you're thinking that painting's not in Spain, it's in New York. It used to be in New York, actually. It's not. There's also a story surrounding why it's back in Spain. Did he? Dan knows it.
Well, Picasso painted it, and after he painted it, he donated it back to the country of Spain, but he said it could not go back until Spain was democracy once again. So it was hanging in New York. It was also in Philadelphia for a little while. And then once Spain became a democracy, I think in the early 80s, it found its way back to Madrid, and now currently hangs in the Reina Sofia.
So, full circle to thank you for that. Dan finishes my sandwiches, just like they say in Frozen. If anyone likes Disney that's listening. If
Nice.
not, that would be Dan finishes my sentences. So I said, well, let's go see it. Because I wanted to open this world of travel to him, and, not that he thought any differently, but prove that like it really was as easy as booking a flight and figuring out your hotel and going.
So that was the first place that you guys went outside the country together?
Belize was. It was the first time we went to
Okay.
Europe together. Actually,
Gotcha.
I think the second place we went together, we were like, let's go for gold, was Thailand in December 2016. Right. So we went to Madrid, and I said, well, if you can go somewhere else in Europe, where would you go? And he said, well, Normandy sounds cool because my grandfather, fought in World War II. So I said, all right, great. I'll never make that mistake again because it's actually not that easy to get from Madrid to Normandy. You think that Europe's pretty well connected, and it's not that it isn't, but it was like planes, trains, and automobiles trying to figure out how to get from Madrid to Normandy with the least amount of time and connections possible. But we did it because I said we would. And once I say I'm doing something, we do it. So we went to Madrid, and if you don't know a ton about Europeans and their, how do I delicately phrase this, they go on strike a lot. The unions go on strike. And years ago I take back the 2009 thing. The first time I was in Europe, I think, was when I went to Italy to see my sister studying abroad in Florence in 2001. For sure, that was. Okay, the first time I was in Europe myself was in 2009. So I made sure that we were in Madrid for more than a day, just in case the museums were closed because of a strike. Because when I went with my mother to see my sister in 2001, all I wanted to see was the Sistine Chapel. And the day we had tickets to go see the Sistine Chapel, they were closed.
Oh, no.
And not only because the workers went on strike, and not only had I obviously known about the Sistine Chapel in high school, but I had studied it and done reports on it and watched the agony and the ecstasy like any other good person reporting on it would. So I started crying. I wasn't being bratty. Like, I was just really upset. So my mother, to her credit, which was amazing. My mother grew up traveling. Her mother, my grandmother, always instilled a love of travel to her. So it definitely was passed on. So she booked tickets. We were on our way to Rome, and she booked tickets back to Florence. Wait, nope, the opposite. Sorry. We were on our way to Florence, and she booked tickets to go back to Rome just so I could see the Sistine Chapel, which is actually in Vatican City. If you're listening and you're like, but the Sistine Chapel isn't in Rome, it's in Vatican City. You are correct. So I made sure that we had extended our time in Madrid for a couple of days just in case something like that happened again. Luckily, it didn't. We were able to see Guernica. And another thing I love about Dan is that, I guess it's just a good thing about our relationship, is not only do we travel incredibly well together, but we actually really like the same art. And Dan's the one who has all of the art history backgrounds. And I love that he's able to explain a painting and why it was important. And I've learned from Dan that it's not just the painting, it's why it was revolutionary in its time and nobody was doing it. Like, I always grew up loving Keith Haring, for example, and his street art was amazing because nobody was doing it like he was doing it at the time, the time of Warhol and Basquiat. So we both really love Picasso. And I didn't even know about this painting, which sounds so bizarre now because it's maybe arguably his most famous painting, until Dan really brought it into my life. But I just thought, please don't let this be disappointing. And look, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Some people probably think Picasso is not talented at all. And then I would say, please go to the Picasso Museum in Barcelona and see what he painted when he was 14 years old, and your jaw would drop. He has this painting of his aunt that I was like, holy shit, can I curse? I was like, he's really talented. Oh my God, like these oil paintings and everything. But the Cubism just, came in his adult life and is, what the style he's probably most famous for. But it was just one of the most, it's all black and white, it's all grayscale, and it's one of the most moving paintings I've ever seen. And if you are ever in a place and you have the option for an audio guide or a tour, do it, because you will just get so much more out of it than not having it. I think some people like roll their eyes at it, but like it really, really, really enhances your experience. And we have the audio guides for Guernica, and we listened to every little detail about what was painted in and how purposeful he was. And then there was an exhibit showing kind of the iterations that he went through and the sketches of it. And Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's in grayscale because he was inspired by a newspaper article, and
Correct.
the newspaper was in black and white.
Correct. Picasso was not living in Spain at the time, so he was only able to read about the incident at Guernica through the papers. So that's why it's in black and white.
Yeah, and it's a painting of the city basically being war-torn. It's my New York accent coming out. War-torn with... Actually, we love puzzles. Who doesn't? Post-pandemic especially. But this was pre-pandemic, and we bought a little puzzle to put together and frame in our house that's of Guernica. And it's, like the mother's crying and a sword through a horse. And it's just very moving. And we did that. And then we went to Normandy, you see? And we did. And then now that I say this out loud, it was kind of like a World War II trip, was it not?
Right. Yeah. It was very focused on World War II.
Right. And we were obviously born way after World War II, but I do think it's important to still travel to these places and not let history repeat itself. Let's not talk about politics right now. But so we went to Normandy, and this is the original story of why this came to mind an hour later. Sorry, guys. I hope you're all entertained. But we went to Normandy, and we stayed in a small-ish city called Bayeux, which is apparently very famous for a tapestry, but we're the only people who have not seen the tapestry there, because we thought, why would we go see a tapestry when there's all this amazing World War II history here? As if there was no history there before World War II, which is ridiculous. But so we stayed there, and one of the first nights we were there, it wasn't dinner. I think we just went for a little snack. Dan, we were just like hungry because we saved the rest of it. It wasn't a full dinner.
Right. We went to dinner, and then afterwards we got the charcuterie board.
So we went to dinner and went to get the charcuterie board after. And it was one of the most gorgeous charcuterie boards that this man that owned the restaurant just like seemingly threw together because they were closing. So we didn't eat the whole thing. So we took it to go, which especially in Europe, like I don't think people really do. But for whatever reason, we like decided to get it to go. And thank God, because that sustained us for a long time. What made me think of this was, Bill, you asked like any bad stories on cruises, but this was like kind of a bad story in Normandy. And we were coming back from, was it Honfleur, Dan? And we just like had a really bad experience, which we really love France, especially places outside of Paris. Paris is great and there's no place like it, but it's not my favorite place in France, and it's not Dan's favorite, as he mentioned at the top of the episode. So we generally have amazing things to say about French people and the country and all of its regions. But we were in Honfleur. It's one of the prettiest villages in France. It's famous for being a coastal city and having really pretty flowers during a certain time of year. But for whatever reason, like everywhere we went that day asking for dinner, just walking in, they were like, "Do you have a reservation?" And we would say no. And the restaurant would be completely empty. And they were like, "Sorry, we cannot accommodate you." And we were like, "What is going on?" Yeah, it was really bizarre. And then like Dan knew we rented a car. So like my road rage was coming out a little. Like I was probably speeding where I shouldn't have. I definitely got mailed a ticket or two back to our apartment in Raleigh, North Carolina from France. And I was like, well, I'm paying this because I want to drive in Europe in my lifetime again.
So were you hangry? Is that what that says?
Oh, more than that. I mean, we were just so annoyed. Everybody was rude to us. Like we didn't understand what was going on. We like always approach people with kindness. Like it was just the most bizarre thing. And it just felt like a really obnoxious area. It felt like, I don't know, the Hamptons and Atlantic City all in one somehow. Pretentious is a better word for it. Yes, thank you. So we stopped. I was like, all right, what lemonade are we going to make from these lemons? And like we stopped on this road that was like a little bit in a neighborhood because we saw the sunset was really beautiful. And even then, like somebody in the neighborhood drove up to us and was yelling at us in French that you cannot stop there. And I was like, oh my God, like that really just set me over the edge. And then I was like, we're going home. So we drove back and it was like over an hour, right, Dan? Like we weren't that close. It wasn't that far, but it wasn't that close. And it was getting darker and darker. And I remember we had like Dijon flavored chips that I was like, give me the chips. I was so hungry. And then we're like, we're just going to eat in Bayou. And we got back to Bayou and nothing was open. Nothing. We were like pleading, like, please, we see like people are still sitting in your restaurant. We'll get something to go. And they were like, we're closed. We're closed. And then like there was a McDonald's there. And I remember saying over my dead body, like, we're not eating McDonald's in France. And we like went back to the Airbnb and there was just nothing open. And I was just like so frustrated and so annoyed. And like, it's very rare for us to have a really negative experience anywhere. And because, you know, a lot of it we're like, it's your attitude. It's not like, you know, the circumstances, make the most of it. But we were trying so hard and like just nothing was going our way. And I just remember Dan being like, well, I can like unwrap our leftovers from the charcuterie board the other night. And I was like crying and I was like, no, I'm not having that. Like a 2-year-old. I was like, I'm standing on my, you know, principle. Like, no.
I need to know your take on the same story, Dan, because this is great.
Yeah. So anyway, the end of the story is that he was kind of like, I don't know what to do, but are you sure I can't make it? And then finally I was like, okay, I guess I'll eat that. And like, he like made it for me and heated up like the bread and just made a lovely, you know, rainbow of a situation from this rain. And I was like a new person after. I mean, I've never felt like a 3-year-old more in my adult life than that. That was a very rare occurrence, but that was kind of an interesting story that ended up being a good story to tell now. But yeah, Dan, what was your take on this from the passenger seat?
Like, is she underselling this or is she pretty spot on?
No, she's spot on. I was staring down a Category 3 hurricane, and all I had was a handful of cheese and some stale bread.
And the tunnel's closed.
Yeah, it was. And I will say, Dan, I can't think of anything that like tops that story in terms of even you throwing up on a cruise from rocking during a massage.
Yeah, there was that was a full range of emotions that evening.
It's funny that you mentioned, like you said, over my dead body, no McDonald's in France, but actually that's something that we do. Like when we go places to other countries, we like to go into a McDonald's and just try something that's not, you know, that you can't get locally because the menus are so varied.
Yes.
All over the world. So I think it's kind of a cool thing.
I'm going to back you up on this and agree with you. No, I'm going to agree with you. But at the time, I was just like, the mood I was in, like when we had tried to, you know, support the local economy and support like somebody's restaurant.
You weren't in your right mind. You were throwing a fit.
I was not in my right mind. Yes. But to your point, I will say that like when in Madrid, I remember bringing back McDonald's for the very reason that you said, because the menus are different. And we were just in London, and like we would we stayed by King's Cross in London, and we would pass a McDonald's on the corner every day. And we, went to the train station multiple times a day, and it was always packed. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if they have like fish and chips on the menu, or like what's on the menu. And also, to your point, McDonald's actually did save our lives in the Netherlands, because we stayed in Lisse, which is where the flower festival is every year. It actually is where the very famous Keukenhof tulip gardens are. People think it's in Amsterdam, but it's not. It's 45 minutes outside of Amsterdam. And we stayed in that city during the flower festival in April of last year. And thank God for that McDonald's there, because it was like the only reasonably priced restaurant with somewhat normal hours that we could go to from our hotel. And they had the most amazing French fries with this like spice packet, and it was great. So I did not mean that, McDonald's. I'm sorry. And Bill, I agree with you. We also did the same thing in Japan. They had like we saw a commercial with a dessert from McDonald's, and we were like, ooh, that looks good. So we did go to McDonald's in Japan too.
Like, aren't there McDonald's in areas of the world that sell beer?
I don't know, but I like
Am I
this.
wrong?
I support this.
There's gotta be. I mean,
I feel like I've heard that, but I'm not positive. Now I'm gonna have to check.
Yeah, it's got to be like Germany or England or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Dan, what do you got?
Yeah.
Anything?
I love hearing his perspective on things, especially like we'll get home from a trip, and we lived it together, so we like don't generally talk about it that long after the day's activities unless somebody asks us about it. And then I'll hear him on the phone with a friend or like one of his parents, and I'm like, ooh, I love eavesdropping, because then like I hear your perspective as you would retell it. So this is fun for me to hear too.
Yeah, that, or like if you guys are like, if you're looking at pictures together after the trip, and then it brings back memories, and then you talk about that stuff. So
really, I don't have anything that sticks out as a negative experience, but overall,
yeah, no, it doesn't have to be negative.
Like probably one of the biggest things that I always go back to, and that is when we were in Belize, our first trip outside of the States together, we took a day trip into Guatemala, and we were at Tikal and exploring the ruins, and a couple caught my eye, and it was, I would say, probably newly retired couple struggling. It's 100% humidity in the jungle. It's hot, and they were obviously sunburnt. They looked exhausted, and the woman had a knee brace on. Like it was like, wow, this couple is struggling. But that was the point where I said, how do I pull my retirement forward? And how do I not wait until I'm 63 and a half to start to travel? And that was the moment that I knew, like, I had to figure out how we can travel, how we can build a lifestyle together that allows us to explore the world and continue to see the things we want to see, experience what we want to experience, but do it now while we have our health and we have the time.
Yeah. So important. Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you guys have pretty much done that now, right?
Well, we really focus on making smart decisions that allow for travel. And because it's a priority, like we don't have kids, we don't have pets, we love dogs, but it's just not in the cards for us right now. And everything we call them our three freedoms, and they are freedom of time, freedom of location, and freedom of money. And when we're making a decision together, we say, like, is this outcome going to get us any closer in those three areas of our lives? And is it going to free up more resources? Is it going to free up more time? And is it going to give us that flexibility? So that's really our kind of our decision-making compass. And it was born out of two newly retired people in the jungle in Guatemala.
Wow. That's such a cool story. And it's something that I don't know that I've seen something like that triggered for me. It was more for me, I think, just the first time I experienced real true travel was in 2016, and that just, once I did it, it just opened my eyes. And I say sort of the same. Like I haven't made those choices to this point that will allow me to just do all the traveling that I want, but that's sort of the path that I'm on now. Some life changes have happened and things, and now I'm kind of, that's sort of the direction I want to go. And I may even be somebody who doesn't end up living in the United States and maybe finds a home elsewhere someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, so listen, in the interest of time, I just want to be fair to you guys. I know you do have a hard out in just a little bit, but I know that we're missing a lot of stuff. And, I mean, you look at the clock, you're like, oh my gosh, it's been over an hour already. But I know we've barely touched on a lot of the travels you guys have done. First of all, I did see something about, you guys have also sailed on barges.
Yes.
Yes. Barge. So it's not a garbage barge. You would think that, the first, when you hear it, you're like, what is
Thank you for clarifying that.
It's really shabby chic. No, it's so think of this particular one that we were on that really stands out is in the Canal de Midi in the south of France. So think of a canal, small, it's got the tow path on the side for that they literally would pull the boats in the past, either mule or horse drawn or human powered. And these boats are very long, very skinny, by very long, probably 30 yards, maybe something like that. This particular one that I'm describing, we had 5 passengers, 4 crew, and it was literally like having a private chef because we had chef on board and the captain, and it was quite a magical experience. Thankfully, we enjoyed our company because the 3 other people on board we got along with. There was a couple from Australia and a woman from London. And it felt very much like a private charter through the south of France.
How awesome.
It was really cool. I think one of the things that was extra special about it was that it really goes to places in France that you would never visit unless you were going on this cruise. I mean, you might visit if you lived in the area, but not if you were a tourist. I mean, if like most people go to Paris, and then let's say if you take a river cruise, you go to even smaller cities you might not go to, and then kind of niching down even more, a barge cruise goes to even smaller cities. It almost corresponds to like the vessel you're on that gets you there with the size of the city.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. That's awesome. I could listen to your guys' stories all day long. So I do have 5 final questions that I end every episode with.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we're missing that you would just jumped in your mind that you want to say, but like any story you want to tell before I get into the 5 questions?
No, if there's any story you want us to tell, but I do feel like we could talk to you a lot too. But you come to Orlando sometimes, right? For Disney?
I was just there last week. Not for Disney. I was just there.
All right. Well, let us know next time you're here and we'll meet you where you are for a drink.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, that would be cool. So, okay. And sometimes when we're doing the 5 questions, stories come out. So,
Okay.
And with the 2 of you, it's some of these you may have to answer each of you. So
okay.
They might be different. So, okay. So question number 1, and you probably will have unique answers for these. So question number 1 is, of all of the meals you've ever had outside of your own home, where was your most memorable meal experience?
I know mine. Do you know yours, Dan?
Yeah, I think so. I think I got it.
You go first.
You'll have to help me on the name of the restaurant, but now I'm second guessing myself. No, I'm going to commit.
And you can tell too if there's, I'm loose.
Okay, I think mine's different than his.
Yeah, so I would say that restaurant we went to in Valencia that evening out.
The chef's name is Raquel, and I just sent this to somebody. Tell this story, and then I'll say the name.
Right. It was open kitchen. We sat at the bar and really interacted with. We could see the chef and how she was running her restaurant, and locally owned. She had It was probably a 15, 20 table restaurant. And just for me, it was all about the presentation that came along with the food. And there was a lot of thought and just attention to detail. And the flavors were great. But to me, it was just the whole experience. And that was what fine dining should be like.
Do you remember what you had?
It was a lot of courses of little yummy things.
Okay.
So no, there was
those.
nothing like that just stands out, but I just remember mostly the experience.
And that's why I phrased the question the way I do. At first, I think I phrased it differently the first few episodes, but I'm very careful to say that because I actually had someone on an episode say, like, he told me all about the experience and didn't remember a lick of the food.
Right.
Like the food itself wasn't even a part of it for him.
Right.
So it's just cool.
I'm fairly certain. No, I'm 100% certain. It's called Carrick, Karak, the restaurant. And I distinctly remember one of the courses. I think it was one of the early courses. It was like a little box of truffles, but they were all savory. And I was shocked that I liked I want to say it was liver. It wasn't even, it was like a pate, like a liver flavored truffle, which normally I would say that would never be my favorite, even though I do enjoy pate and foie gras sometimes. It was like just kind of like a twist on things that like you wouldn't, and we're adventurous, but like you wouldn't like put together necessarily. Mm-hmm. And it was just like every bite was really interesting. And did you say we sat at the bar?
Yes.
That just, like he said, enhanced it. And like you would see the chef plate it and then turn around and hand it to you. And the owners, it's Raquel and her husband kind of like around the front of house. And we just stayed late because we were having a nice time and not in a rush. And like he ended up pouring us wine after, and like we were chatting with them, and it was really cool. And actually the world shut down a week later because that was in March 2020.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So my restaurant, we went to, so everybody knows Kobe beef is supposed to be, like some of the best in the world. But in Osaka, they have their own version of Kobe beef, which, to be fair, like it's not that far from Kobe. Trying to think. Or were we in? Wait, was it Kyoto, Dan?
It was Kyoto.
Okay, sorry, Kyoto. I'm like thinking geographically, even though Kyoto is actually an hour north of Osaka on the bullet train, and Kobe is like a 45-minute train ride from Kyoto. So everybody knows Kobe beef. Excuse me. And I went on this Japan travel group on Facebook. It's a really good group. Just look up Japan travel group, and it's one of the first Facebook groups that come up. And somebody had recommended this restaurant with you can opt for the price set one, which we did for lunch. Good tip if you ever go to a Michelin starred restaurant or any fancy restaurant and you're like, dinner's a little out of my budget, try to go for lunch because it usually is obviously the same chef, same food, just costs less. And we went for lunch, and I didn't know that steak could melt in your mouth like butter until I had this steak. So it's the Kyoto version of Kobe beef, but we had Kobe beef after in Kobe, and the meal in Kyoto was more delicious than this beef. Both were excellent and exceptional, but this was, I can't even like put words on it, out of this world. And they cook the steak for you in almost like bites. So they watch you eat. It's not creepy. It's just like a service thing. They watch you eat and they see when you're ready for more steak, and they cook it. So like it's not sitting there overcooked. It's not cooling down. It is like perfect every single bite. And that, I would say, was one of the best meals I've ever had.
That's awesome. I have had Kobe beef one time, and it was in Puerto Rico, actually. And I can honestly say that I can imagine that it could be better, only because I've had meals where I've been like, well, this couldn't be any better, and then I've had a better one. Mm-hmm. But it was unbelievable. So
I can't wait for you to go.
Worth the money.
We are going to give you the restaurant name because it's just outstanding. So yeah, you have to go to Japan and put that place on your list. And I know I'm not saying the restaurant name because it's in Japanese and I don't know what it is, but yeah,
Okay,
I
fair.
can link you up to all these places if it helps for the show notes. It's up to you.
Excellent.
Okay.
That'd be great. Okay, so moving on. Question number 2 is, of all of the places in the world that you have been, even if I offered you guys a free trip, where would you say no thank you? I don't want to go back.
I hate speaking negatively of a place, but I'll do it in the name of this.
It doesn't have to be negative. It could just be that, you know, I've been there, done that. I'm good.
Check the box.
Or it could be I had a bad experience and I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
Okay. If I don't go back to Tulum, I'll be fine. It was just like the bugs there were unlike anywhere I've ever experienced with mosquito bites. It just like, we really like Mexico a lot, and something about how expats have taken over Tulum just made it really not our style. Like, we were craving more Mexico, and we went to Tulum from the west coast of the Yucatan Peninsula, and we went to Merida, and we went to some like really Mexican feeling places, and we really missed it when we went to Tulum.
It's funny. I think the episode that is coming out, so we're recording this on July 12th. The episode that's coming out tonight at midnight, I believe that was her answer. Was Tulum.
Interesting. Isn't that interesting?
And I mentioned to her that when we went to Mexico, we stayed in Xcaret. And I would highly recommend that. Right next door, there's a park connected to the resort that we stayed in. And there were plenty of ruins and everything there. And it was all dedicated to like the Mexican heritage. And they had these shows that were, you know, like native dances and things that they would have done, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And it was just really
Was it by Uxmal?
Maybe.
Okay.
I'm not sure. We were kind of there for, you know, a week and we left. So,
Yeah. That is interesting.
But awesome.
Dan, what would you say?
I would say Quito in Ecuador. I'm good. Check that box.
Oh, man. Well, is that because you got food poisoning from the last place we went to?
I think it was. I think it was that, but the city just didn't speak to me.
But Quito is also where the equator is, right?
Yes.
Okay. But you checked that box. You were on the equator. You're good. Okay.
I'm good.
Cool.
Excellent.
It's also a very high. Quito, Ecuador is an incredibly high elevation. So like they say you should drink a lot of water and just like be very conscientious of how you're feeling at that elevation. So that kind of makes some people feel nauseous too.
Do they have, they probably don't have coca tea there like they do in Peru.
I don't think so.
What is it?
I
Like
don't think it's
literally
on.
a drink?
Yeah, and because in that region, cocaine used to be or was or is a thing, and so that's actually the leaves from the coca plant. So when we went to Peru, we went to Cusco before we went to Machu Picchu, of course, like everyone does, and elevation hit me for sure.
Okay.
It wasn't terrible, but it definitely hit me, and coca tea really helped. It settled my stomach, made me feel good. You're not allowed to bring it back into the United States because even though it's not really the drug, I don't know, for some reason you still aren't allowed. So we'll say for the record that I did not bring any back home with me in my
Right.
suitcase.
The official record. Correct.
That's correct.
Right.
Exactly.
You heard it here. That's a hot
Yes.
tip though.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, well now let's flip that and we'll make it positive. So of all the places in the world that you have been, question 3, let's just say, where do you absolutely have to go back? 1 or 2 places each.
Madrid.
Yeah, I would agree with Madrid 100%. Japan, I have to go back. And then Lyon, France. I just know that's going to be in my future again.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah,
please.
for sure. France. I agree with that. Yeah.
So for me, it's a difficult decision sometimes because there's so much of the world I haven't seen that I want to see, and it's not. Some people want to check off as many countries as they can and whatever. And that's not it for me. It's just I want to see more of the world. So it's it's maybe even different places in countries I've already been to. But is that tough for you? Because like life is what it is, and we only have a limited amount of time. And so is that a tough decision for you sometimes when you're planning travels? Like, do we go somewhere new or do we go somewhere we haven't been? Or that we have been?
You hit the nail on the head. It is tough. And sometimes I'm in a place and I think I might never be here again. And it's kind of like a weird sense of sadness along with a sense of gratitude, because so many people will never have been here. And then, of course, there's some point in your life, like just when you're younger, you feel like you're never going to die, you're invincible. And then like you realize, mortality is a thing. It's like at some point in your travels, you realize, well, there's just no way I'm going to see everything. There's just no way. Yeah. And then you realize there are places that I don't really want to go to, or places that maybe because of current war situations, right? Like Russia, like no one's going to Russia really. And, maybe 10 years ago they would have, but now it's like, oh, like Russia has a whole history that like would have been great to see. And the, czars and palaces and like learn about that, like their golden age, but like we might never ever go to Russia. We don't know. Maybe we will, right? Like our parents, when they were born, maybe they would have said, no, we're not going to Vietnam,
Right. And that's high on my list,
right,
actually.
Right. Or Japan, like I'm sure there are now they're, like I was hitting a century in age, but like there might be people that fought in World War II that are like, I cannot wrap my head around why you're going to Japan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do think about that. What do you, Bill, like like when did you have that realization? Because I do think about it.
I think probably just within the first few years of travel, just realizing, I've gone to a lot of places in 9 years. And so it's a hunger for more, especially you mentioned something earlier. And I know, again, I'm looking at the clock because I know you guys gotta get going, but I somewhere along the line, we used to travel and try to do it all ourselves and try to just learn as much as we can and plan everything ourselves and whatever. And somewhere along the line, we did a walking tour somewhere. And I don't remember the first one that we did. It may have been in New Orleans or it might have been South America. I don't remember, but it was so incredible to learn so much from someone who knows the history and knows like what this building means to people, or, where did this come from? Why is this here? This little house here that is completely like, you wouldn't think anything of it. You'd walk right by it. It has so much history to the people that live here. I don't know, whatever it is. And so like, I kind of thirst for that now. So I kind of, when I want to go to new places and learn about those places and their history and their, culture and stuff.
Yeah, and it makes you understand it from a different perspective, right? Like going to Hiroshima and going to the Peace Memorial Museum to learn about World War II and how it affected the Japanese people, like really makes you, we went in Vietnam. We went to a Vietnam War museum, and it like was not kind to the Americans at all, and it actually like made me feel a little uncomfortable. I was just like, all right, I'm good. Like, I'm not delusional. Like, I don't think Americans are the best when it comes to war, especially in another country. But it's just like only through travel do we gain those different perspectives that are really important to just understanding humankind.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So question 4 is similar to 3, but I guess the opposite of it is in that of all the places in the world that you have not been, where do you absolutely have to go? So not bucket list, because mine's very long, but 1 or 2 places you absolutely must get to.
During our first date, I asked Dan where he wanted to go, and he said Nepal, and we haven't been. So I would say in our lifetime, it would be fun to get to Nepal.
I would definitely agree. Nepal is still there. Tibet, I would like to see that. And then part of me wants to go to Patagonia, because I feel like probably that'll go away. It become commercial, somehow. Yeah. There'll be a Kentucky Fried Chicken there or something. So
another restaurant that's very famous all over the world.
Especially in Japan. Actually, for Christmas, they go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and they get chicken for Christmas. Right, Dan? Or was it New Year's Eve? I want to say Christmas.
It was Christmas, yeah. I mean,
So funny.
they don't celebrate Christmas quite the same way. It's more of a celebration of family. So they, go see the Colonel.
Papa Colonel.
That's great. It's KF Christmas Day. All right. So, and the final question we'll wrap with is one that should be easy. You'll know the answer if you have one. Is what is planned already on your docket? Where are you going?
It's funny because this actually is the biggest break in travel we've had in a really long time. So it's not an exciting answer to us. We're going to the Caribbean in November. It's not exciting to us because we don't swoon over the Caribbean. We know people love it and it's a great place, and all the islands have all the islands feel very similar, but they also have their own culture. So it's the Caribbean. I feel like, Dan, we also might be going to Charleston to see very close friends of ours. The thing is, when you travel so much and you prioritize the lifestyle that you've built so you can travel, you neglect going to places that family and friends might go to regularly because it's like an easy weekend trip, or it's easier, I don't know, financially or just logistically. So like two of our best friends and their kids, who are like our nieces and nephew, we haven't seen in a while. So Charleston is really phenomenal, and we really do like that area.
Excellent. Well, this has been really fantastic, you guys. And I was a little nervous about how it would work with two people, but you guys obviously get along very well, and your personality. So I didn't have to separate you at all or anything, So it was really fantastic. Is there anything you'd like to add or say before we end the episode?
You're such a great interviewer and such a natural, and we really enjoy listening. So it's so cool to be on. And we
thank you.
Can't wait to do it in person at a bar over drinks or coffee or ice cream or whatever. So thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it felt like a very natural conversation. So thank you for facilitating that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure having you guys, and I appreciate you taking the time with me. And best of luck with everything you have going on. And again, everyone check out the podcast that they have as well. And I'll put everything in the show notes for the listeners, and have a great dinner.
Thank you. Saturday.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's fun starting our evening with you, and I'll continue that. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
And there's another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast in the books. Thank you so much for listening today. There was another great guest with some great stories, as always, and I hope that you will support all of the guests by checking out the show notes and going to their web pages, seeing any socials and projects that they may have going on. And please, again, I'll ask as always to like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really does help to allow the podcast to grow and reach more people, and I appreciate you for doing that. Also, if you haven't done so, check out the website, whybpodcast.com, where you can find blog posts. If you'd like to be a guest, please register to be a guest on the site, and check out the merch page. There's some really cool stuff if you're interested in representing the pod, along with some other cool travel items and apparel that I'm working on every day as well. Join me again next week for another great guest with more incredible stories. New episodes drop every Sunday just after midnight Eastern Time. Until then, thank you for being here, and have a great day.